She grabbed her best friend's hand as the potion touched her lips, a single triumphant tear falling as the queen's skin began to shimmer and shrink into the golden fish that would make her the new ruler of the kingdom. Welcome to Tales by Komen, where old African stories are reborn. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so the fire of our stories keeps burning bright. Sit close and let the story begin. In the village of Amumbid, nestled by the singing waters of the river Njaba, two girls were like two seeds from the same pod. From the moment their tiny legs could carry them, Neka and Ada were inseparable. Neka, whose name means Mother is Supreme, had a mind as sharp as a farmer's hoe. She could solve any problem, whether it was fixing a broken basket or thinking of a new game to play. Ada, whose name means First Daughter, had a beauty that was not just in her smiling face, but in her gentle heart. She could calm a crying baby with a song and made everyone feel seen and important. Their friendship was the rhythm of the village. You would see them balancing clay pots on their heads, their laughter mixing with the sound of the river. During the New Yam festival, their feet moved as one to the beat of the drum, a whirl of colorful skirts and joyful energy. At night, they would lie on a mat under the moon, its light painting their faces silver as they whispered secrets they would never tell another soul. They believed their friendship was as eternal as the ancient Irako tree that stood at the village center. Their lives were simple and happy. Neka's home was a small hut with walls of red earth, but it was filled with love. Ada's family was also kind, and their compound was always open to others. The girls believed they would always be this way, two friends side by side facing the world together. They imagined growing into women, perhaps marrying two brothers and raising their children in the same village so the next generation could be friends just like them. The sun was warm, the river provided, and their hearts were light. They did not know that a single moment could change the melody of a life, that a seed of a dark thought, once planted, could grow into a forest of thorns. The annual festival of the masks was the brightest day of the year in Amumbid. The air thrummed with the energy of 100 drums. Dancers, covered in intricate masks that represented powerful spirits, spun and leaped, their movements telling stories of the ancestors. It was on this day that King Obi, the young ruler of the land, decided to walk among his people. King Obi was not a distant ruler. He was strong, with a voice that could command the wind, but his eyes held the warmth of a cooking fire. He respected the old ways and led with a fair hand. As he moved through the crowd, his royal guards keeping a respectful distance, his eyes fell upon Ada. She was not dancing to be seen, she was dancing for the pure joy of it, her body moving with the grace of a river reed in the wind. When she helped a young child who had stumbled, her smile was so genuine that it seemed to light up the space around her. King Obi's heart, which had been as steady as a drumbeat, now skipped and raced like a frightened antelope. He felt as if he had been drinking palm wine, his head felt light and his spirit soared. He did not see anyone else in the crowd. It was as if a beam of sunlight was shining only on Ada. He immediately turned to his advisor, an old man with a wise, wrinkled face. "Who is that girl?" King Obi asked, his voice barely a whisper, yet full of wonder. The advisor smiled, knowing the look in a young man's eyes. "That is Ada, daughter of the woodcarver Matsi Dike. Her heart is as good as her face is fair." Without another moment of doubt, King Obi, with the courage of a lion, walked straight to Matsi Dike. He did not send a messenger. He went himself, showing great respect. "Matsi Dike," the king said, his voice clear and honest. "Your daughter Ada has captured my heart. I wish to make her my queen, to stand by my side and rule this land with kindness." The family compound fell into a stunned silence, then erupted into tears of joy. Neka, who was standing nearby, felt her own smile become stiff and heavy on her face. A great wedding was prepared. The whole village buzzed with excitement. Ada was taken to the royal palace, a beautiful compound of tall red mud buildings with patterned walls and sweeping thatched roofs. She was given robes of the finest, softest cloth, dyed in deep indigo and embroidered with shining cowrie shells. Neka watched it all happen like a dream happening to someone else. At first she visited the palace often. Ada would run to greet her, still the same girl, pulling her by the hand to see the beautiful gardens or the view from her chamber. "Neka, this place is so big and quiet without you," Ada would say, her eyes pleading. "You must come every day. You are my best friend and that will never change." Neka would nod and force a smile, but the words felt like sharp stones in her stomach. Every time she saw Ada and King Obi together, a cold, slimy feeling twisted in Neka's heart. She saw them walking hand in hand through the palace grounds, their heads close together in conversation. She heard the king's deep, warm laugh when Ada said something clever. She saw the way he looked at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Back in her small, quiet hut, Neka would lie on her mat and stare at the thatched roof. The silence was deafening. She started to count the differences between their lives. Ada slept on a soft bed, Neka on a grass mat. Ada ate from golden plates, Neka from a clay bowl. Ada had the love of a king, Neka had no one. The clever, problem-solving part of her mind, once used for good, now started to work in a dark, new way. "Why does she have everything?" she whispered into the dark one night. "We were the same. We started together. What makes her so special?" The shell of her happiness was cracking, and a dangerous envy was beginning to hatch inside. The envy grew like a stubborn weed, choking all the good memories in Neka's heart. She started to make excuses not to visit Ada. "I have too much work," she would tell the palace messenger. But the truth was, seeing Ada's joyful life was like a poison to her spirit. One night, the dark thought that had been whispering finally spoke in a clear, cold voice inside her head. "If Ada were gone, then I could be queen. King Obi would see me. I could have the fine robes, the palace, the love. I could have it all." The thought shocked her, but it also felt thrilling. It felt like a solution. She remembered the stories her grandmother told her about Agwo, the powerful python priestess who lived deep in the forbidden forest. It was said she knew the secrets of the earth and could weave powerful magic for those brave enough to ask, and to pay the price. Before the first rooster could crow, Neka slipped out of her hut and headed towards the forest. The path was thin and covered in thorns. The tall, ancient trees blocked out the sun, making it feel like night. Strange sounds echoed around her. The screech of a monkey, the rustle of something heavy moving in the undergrowth, the whisper of the wind through the leaves that sounded like voices. Her heart pounded like a drum, but the picture of herself sitting on the throne kept her feet moving forward. After hours of walking, when her feet were sore and her hope was fading, she saw a small, crooked hut almost completely hidden by twisting vines. A thin line of smoke curled from the top, smelling of strange herbs and dry earth. Her hands were trembling as she pushed aside the vine curtain and stepped inside. The inside of the hut was dark and smoky. In the center, sitting on a stool made of a twisted tree root, was Agwo. She was very old, her skin like wrinkled leather, and her eyes were a pale, milky color that seemed to see right through Neka. Around her neck, she wore a necklace of python bones. "Neka, daughter of a Mumbid," Agwo said, her voice a dry rasp like dragging leaves. "The forest told me you were coming. Your heart shouts its darkness from a mile away. What does a village girl want from an old woman like me?" Neka's courage almost failed her, but she thought of Ada's smiling face and her own jealousy gave her strength. "I want my friend Ada to be gone," Neka declared, her voice shaking but clear. "I want to take her place as queen." Agwo let out a low, cackling laugh. "A small wish with a very big shadow, child. To remove a queen you must pay a queen's price. Are you ready for the consequences?" "Yes," Neka said, her desperation making her bold. "I will do anything." Agwo moved to a corner and poured a glowing green liquid from a gourd into a small clay bottle. The liquid swirled as if alive. "Give this to your friend. It will turn her into something small, something that belongs to the river. A fish. She will be forgotten by all." Neka's eyes widened with a terrifying excitement. She took the bottle, its surface cold against her skin. "Remember, child," Agwo whispered, her milky eyes locking with Neka's. "Magic is a river that flows both ways. What you send out will always find its way back to you." Neka barely heard the warning. She clutched the bottle tightly, turned and ran back through the forest, her mind already picturing her new life. A few days later, Ada came to visit Neka in her hut, worried about her friend who had been so distant. "Neka, I have missed you," Ada said, hugging her tightly. "The palace is beautiful, but it is not the same without your laughter." Neka had prepared a special drink, a sweet, spicy zobo tea. Her hands shook as she poured it into a wooden cup. She had already added the green liquid, which swirled and then disappeared into the dark red tea. "I made this for you, Ada," Neka said, forcing her voice to be sweet. "It is a special drink for strength and happiness, to celebrate your new life." Ada, her heart filled with love and trust for her oldest friend, took the cup without a single moment of doubt. "Thank you, Neka. You are the best friend a person could have." She drank the tea in a few happy gulps. The change was instant and horrifying. Ada's eyes widened in shock. She tried to speak, to call Neka's name, but no sound came out. Her body began to shrink and twist. Her arms pressed against her sides, becoming fins. Her legs fused together, forming a long, shimmering tail. Her beautiful robes fell in a heap on the floor, and where Ada had stood just a second before, a small, beautiful golden fish now flopped on the hard earth. Nneka stared, her breath caught in her throat. For a moment she felt a stab of horror at what she had done. But the feeling was quickly swallowed by her ambition. She picked up the struggling fish, its scales shining like liquid gold in the hut's dim light. "Goodbye, Ada," she whispered, her voice cold as stone. She carried the fish to the river Njaba and threw it into the water. The golden fish swam in a confused circle before disappearing into the depths. Nneka watched it go, a strange emptiness in her heart, but she convinced herself it was the feeling of freedom. When Ada did not return to the palace, a deep worry settled over everyone. King Obi sent his guards to search every hut, every field, and every path in Amumbid. He offered a great reward to anyone who had information. But no one had seen anything. The queen had simply vanished. The joyful music that usually floated from the palace was replaced by a heavy, grieving silence. King Obi was heartbroken. His strong shoulders slumped, and the warmth in his eyes was replaced by a hollow sadness. He would sit on his throne for hours, staring at nothing. At night he was haunted by dreams. In his dreams he stood by the river Njaba and Ada would be there, but she was just out of reach. She didn't speak, but her eyes were full of tears and he could feel her calling his name, "Obi, help me?" He would wake up with a start, his heart aching, convinced the dream was real. Nneka saw her chance. She began to visit the palace every day, wearing simple clothes and a face painted with fake sadness. "My king," she would say, her voice soft and gentle. "You must be strong. The village needs its leader. Let me help you. I can manage the household, I can speak to the people." I was her best friend. It is what she would have wanted. King Obi was too lost in his grief to see her true intentions. He saw her as a kind and loyal friend, a comforting presence in his dark time. He would nod and thank her, but his heart remained with his lost Ada. He didn't know that the very person who claimed to comfort him was the one who had caused all his pain. The snake was already inside the house, and it was coiling itself around the throne. Months passed and Nneka grew impatient. King Obi was grateful for her help, but he still did not look at her the way she wanted. He still talked about Ada every day. Her jealousy burned hotter than ever. She decided she needed more powerful magic. Once again she journeyed into the forbidden forest to find Agwo. The python priestess was not surprised to see her. "The fish swims, but the king still dreams," Agwo said as if she had been watching everything. "You want more." "I want King Obi to love me," Nneka demanded. "I want him to forget Ada and see only me." Agwo smiled her crooked smile. "To capture a king's heart is the greatest magic of all. The price is the greatest of all. You wish to be a queen? Then you must give up the future of a queen. You must give me your womb. You will never bear children. Your line will end with you." Nneka felt a cold terror wash over her. To never have a child? To never feel a baby in her arms? It was a terrible thing for any woman in the village. But then she pictured the crown on her head, the power, the palace. Her ambition was a fire that burned away all other desires. "I agree," she said, her voice hollow. Agwo took a small, sharp knife and performed a quick, painless ritual, drawing a symbol in the air above Nneka's stomach. A coldness settled deep within Nneka. The price was paid. Agwo then gave her a tiny vial filled with a red, thick liquid that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Pour this into his food. His heart will be yours." Back at the palace, Nneka offered to cook a special meal for the tired king. She prepared his favorite pepper soup, and when no one was looking she poured the glowing red charm into the pot. The king ate the meal and the change was immediate. The sadness in his eyes melted away, replaced by a soft, dazed look. He looked at Nneka and smiled a smile she had never seen directed at her before. "Nneka," he said, his voice warm, "you have been so kind to me. I see now how strong and clever you are. You should be by my side." Nneka's heart soared. Within a week, King Obi announced that he would marry Nneka. The village was shocked. Whispers spread like wildfire. How could he marry his wife's best friend so soon? It was against tradition. It was against respect. But the king, under the powerful spell, would not listen to anyone. The wedding was a quiet, sad affair. The villagers came, but they did not sing or dance with true joy. On that day, Nneka became queen. She put on the royal robes and the heavy crown. She looked at her reflection and saw a queen, but her eyes were hard and cold. She had everything she ever wanted. But that night, as she lay in the royal bed, she felt the deep, cold emptiness inside her where her hope for a child had been. She shook the feeling away. She had power. That was all that mattered. As queen, Neka's true nature exploded for all to see. The kind, helpful girl was gone, replaced by a cruel and proud woman. She wanted everyone to feel her power, especially those who had loved Ada. One morning she summoned Ada's mother, Ngozi, to the palace. The poor woman came, hoping for news of her daughter. Instead, Neka was lounging on her throne, looking bored. "The palace cooks are useless," Neka said, not even looking at her. "You will cook my meals today." Ngozi was shocked. "My queen, I am just a farmer's wife. You have many skilled cooks." Neka's eyes flashed with anger. "You will do as I say or your family will be thrown out of the village. Now get to the kitchen." With a heavy heart, Ngozi spent the whole day cooking in the hot kitchen. When she was done, Neka took one bite and threw the plate on the floor. "This is food for pigs. You will come back tomorrow and try again." The next day she called Ada's father, Matsi Dike, and ordered him to work in the royal gardens under the hot sun, digging and planting like a common laborer. The village chief saw this cruelty and went to the palace to beg the queen for mercy. "Your Majesty, this is not our way. This is cruelty," the oldest chief said. Neka stood up, her face twisted with rage. "How dare you question me? I am your queen. If any of you speak against me again, you will be banished from this land forever." The chiefs, seeing the king sitting silently and blankly beside her, knew they were defeated. They bowed their heads and left, their hearts filled with fear and anger. The kingdom was now draped in a shadow of fear. Far away in a smaller village downstream, life was very hard for a kind widow named Neoma and her young daughter, Ifyananya. They were very poor. Some days they had only one small meal to share. But Neoma had a strong spirit and always prayed to the gods for help. One morning as she was fetching water from the river, she prayed aloud, "Chinik, God of creation, please see our struggle. Send us just one blessing, just one small thing to change our fate." She filled her clay pot and carried it home on her head, the weight of the water feeling like the weight of her worries. When she got home and started to pour the water into a large basin, something amazing happened. A flash of gold tumbled out with the water and landed in the basin with a soft splash. It was a fish, but unlike any fish they had ever seen. It was small and its scales were a shimmering, brilliant gold, as if a piece of the sun had fallen into the water. Neoma and Ifyananya stared with their mouths wide open. "Mama?" Ifyananya whispered. "It's the golden fish from the legends. The one that brings good fortune." Neoma's hands trembled. She had heard the stories. This fish was so rare and beautiful that wealthy merchants would pay a fortune for it. Tears of hope filled her eyes. "Our prayers have been answered, Ifyananya. We will sell it at the market tomorrow. We will be able to buy a new hut, plenty of food, and even a goat. Our suffering is over." For the first time in a long time, their small hut was filled with the light of hope. That evening as the sun set, Ifyananya sat by the basin, watching the golden fish swim in slow, graceful circles. The fish seemed sad to her. Its eyes were large and dark, and they held a deep intelligence that made her feel strange. "You are so beautiful," she whispered to the fish. "But you look so lonely." She thought she saw its mouth open and close, but she told herself it was just the water. That night Ifyananya could not sleep. A feeling tugged at her heart. She crept out of bed, lit a small oil lamp and went back to the basin. The golden fish swam to the surface and looked straight at her. Then, clear as a bell, a soft, musical voice filled the quiet air. "Please, help me." Ifyananya gasped and almost dropped her lamp. She leaned closer, her heart pounding. Who are you?" she stammered. "I am Ada," the voice replied, filled with a deep sadness. "I was the queen of Amumbit. My best friend Neka was jealous of me. She tricked me into drinking a potion from a powerful witch and she turned me into this fish. Please, I beg you, do not sell me. Help me become human again." Ifyananya was filled with a mix of fear and wonder. She knew she had to tell her mother. She woke Neoma and told her the incredible story. At first, Neoma thought it was a dream, but the serious, sincere look on her daughter's face made her believe. She looked at the fish and for the first time she saw not a prize to be sold, but a person trapped and crying for help. "The gods did not send us a treasure," Neoma said softly. "They sent us a test of our character." She knew then that they could not sell the fish. The next day they went to the busy market, the golden fish hidden in a covered pot. Neoma's plan was to just look at the prices for other things, but a merchant saw a glimpse of the gold and shouted, "The golden fish! She has the legendary fish!" A crowd gathered instantly. Merchants pushed and shoved, their eyes greedy. 50 gold coins, one yelled. 70, shouted another. 100. The bids rose higher and higher. Neoma's head spun. This was more money than she had ever imagined. It was a chance to end all their suffering forever. But then Ifeanyi tugged at her mother's dress. Her face was pale but determined. She stepped forward and faced the crowd of shouting, angry men. "Stop!" she cried out, her young voice ringing with courage. "We cannot sell this fish. She is not a fish. She is a person. Her name is Ada, and she is a queen who was cursed." The crowd fell silent for a moment, and then erupted into loud laughter. "The girl is mad," one man scoffed. "She is telling stories to keep the fish for herself." But Neoma looked at her daughter, at her brave, truthful eyes, and she knew what she had to do. She held up her hand for silence. "My daughter speaks the truth," Neoma announced, her voice strong and clear. "This fish is not for sale. We will not sell a human soul for any price." The crowd was furious. They called her a fool and shouted insults. But Neoma held her head high, took Ifeanyi's hand and walked away from the fortune, carrying the true treasure, their integrity, in their hearts. Neoma knew the angry merchants would not give up. That night as they tried to sleep, they heard whispers outside their hut. "We will take the fish tonight. They don't deserve it." But one of the merchants, a man named Matsi Okoro, whom Neoma had once given food to when he was starving, felt a pang of guilt. He crept to their back window and whispered urgently, "Neoma, they are coming for you. You must run now. Take the fish and go into the forest. If you stay, they will hurt you." Terrified, Neoma and Ifeanyi grabbed a small bag with some food, the pot with the golden fish, and ran out into the dark night. They did not look back. They could hear the angry voices of the other merchants arriving at their empty hut. They ran until their lungs burned, following the path deep into the dark, unknown forest. They finally found an old, abandoned hunter's hut, its roof half fallen in. It was cold and scary, but it was shelter. They huddled together inside, listening to the howls of wild animals in the distance. They were safe for now, but they were lost, hungry, and afraid. The journey to save a queen had begun, and it was more dangerous than they had ever imagined. For 2 days they hid in the hut, surviving on the little food they had brought. Ifeanyi talked to the fish every day, telling it stories to keep its spirits up. On the third night, as a cold wind blew through the cracks in the walls, a strange warmth filled the hut. A soft, golden light appeared, and in the middle of the light stood an old woman. But she was not like Agwo. This woman's face was kind, and her eyes shone with the light of 1,000 stars. "Do not be afraid, Neoma and Ifeanyi," she said, her voice like a gentle song. "I am a messenger from the gods. They have seen your pure hearts. You chose kindness over gold, and that is the most powerful magic in the world." Neoma and Ifeanyi knelt, trembling with awe. "Can you help us?" Ifeanyi asked. "Can you help Ada?" "Yes, child," the messenger said. "But you must be brave. The curse is strong, woven with jealousy. To break it, you need 2 things. She handed Neoma a leaf that glowed with a soft green light. "First, you must rub this sacred Uziza leaf on the fish. This will prepare her spirit to return." She then grew very serious. "Second, and most important, the king must look upon her. His gaze, from a heart that once loved her, is the final key. But you must hurry. You have only 7 days. If the king does not see her by the 7th sunset, the curse will become permanent, and Ada will be a fish forever." Then, as suddenly as she appeared, the messenger vanished, leaving them with a heart full of hope and a race against time. Their journey to Amumbid was long and tiring. When they arrived, they saw a village living in fear. People whispered about the evil queen and the lost king. They went straight to the palace, but the guards on Neka's orders threw them out roughly. "The queen does not want beggars here," one guard snarled. Desperate, they asked around and found their way to the compound of Ada's parents, Matsi Dike and Enenine Ngozi. The couple looked old and tired, their eyes hollow from grief and hard labor. When Neoma told them their incredible story and showed them the golden fish, Enenine Ngozi burst into tears. She reached out a trembling hand and gently touched the fish's golden scales. "My child," she whispered. "My beautiful Ada. I knew you were not gone." Matsi Dike, with a new fire in his eyes, said, "We must get her to the king. But Neka controls everyone who goes near him." Then he had an idea. "The palm wine tapper. He is the only one Neka trusts. He brings the king his wine every evening. He is a good man. Maybe he will help us." They found the palm wine tapper, a quiet man named Oki. At first he was afraid, but when he saw the fish and the hope in the parents' eyes, he agreed. "This evil must end," Oki said firmly. I will hide the fish in my wine basket. I will find a way to show the king." That evening, Oki the palm wine tapper went to the palace, the golden fish hidden carefully in his basket under a cloth. His heart was pounding. King Obi was sitting on his veranda, staring into the distance with the same blank, dazed look he always had. Neka was nearby, watching everyone like a hawk. Oki served the king his calabash of palm wine, his hands shaking. Then, as he was about to leave, he pretended to trip, and the basket fell from his hands. The cloth covering flew open, and the golden fish, shining brilliantly in the evening sun, landed on the floor near the king's feet. "What is this?" Neka shrieked, standing up angrily. But it was too late. King Obi looked down. The moment his eyes fell upon the golden fish, a memory sharp and clear, pierced through the fog in his mind. He saw Ada's smile. He remembered her laugh. He saw her dancing at the festival. It was like waking up from a long, terrible dream. As if in a trance, he bent down and picked up the fish. The moment his skin touched the cool, scaly body, a blinding white light exploded from the fish. Everyone gasped and shielded their eyes. The light was warm and powerful. When it faded, the fish was gone. Standing right in front of King Obi, holding his hands, was Ada, his true queen, returned to her human form. She was wearing the same simple dress she had on the day she was cursed. The spell over the king was completely shattered. For a long moment, there was a deep, stunned silence. Then King Obi pulled Ada into a tight embrace, tears streaming down his face. "Ada, my Ada, it is really you. What have I done? I am so sorry," he cried, his voice full of real emotion for the first time in months. Ada hugged him back, crying tears of relief and joy. Then she saw her parents and ran to them, the family holding each other tightly, their sobs of happiness filling the palace courtyard. King Obi then noticed Neoma and Ifyananya, who were standing shyly to the side. "Who are these brave souls?" he asked. Matsi Dike stepped forward. "My king, this is Neoma and her daughter, Ifyananya. They are the ones who found Ada. They protected her, believed her, and risked their lives to bring her back to you. They turned down a fortune in gold to save a stranger." King Obi looked at them with immense gratitude. He bowed his head to them, a king bowing to a poor widow and a child. "You have saved my queen and my kingdom. I can never repay you. From this day, you will be honored as the greatest heroes of this land." He then turned, his face hardening with a new strength. "And where is Neka?" But the evil queen had seen everything. The moment the light flashed, she knew her game was over. While everyone was celebrating, she had slipped away into the growing darkness, her heart filled not with regret, but with a burning, furious rage. Neka ran back to the forbidden forest, her mind boiling with anger. She found Agwo at her hut. Your magic is weak," Neka screamed. "She is back. I need a stronger charm. I need to destroy them both. The king and Ada, I want them gone forever." Agwo looked at her, her milky eyes showing no surprise. "You have nothing left to pay with, child. You have already given away your future. I don't care. Give me the charm." Neka shrieked. Agwo shrugged. She prepared a final charm, a small black pouch filled with ashes. "This is a charm of utter destruction. But it has one rule. As you return to the palace, you must not look back. No matter what you hear, no matter who calls your name, you must not turn your head. If you do, the charm will turn on you." Neka snatched the pouch and ran. As she hurried through the dark forest, she heard a voice behind her. Sounded like King Obi. "Neka, my beautiful queen, come back. You are the only one I want." The voice was so sweet, so convincing. Her pride swelled. She wanted to see the look on his face. She forgot the warning. She turned her head to look. The moment she did, the black pouch in her hand exploded into a cloud of dark smoke that wrapped around her head. She inhaled the ashes and they poisoned her mind. The world spun. The voices in her head became a screaming chaos. She started laughing, a high, crazy sound that echoed through the trees. She stumbled out of the forest and back towards the palace, but she was no longer Neka. She was a madwoman, her clothes torn, her hair wild, her eyes seeing things that were not there. She ran through the village, laughing and crying, a terrifying sight. The villagers she had terrorized now looked at her with pity. In her madness, she ran onto the main road just as a fast-moving lorry was passing. There was a loud screech and a terrible thud. Neka, the girl who wanted everything, lay still on the ground, her ambition finally and tragically extinguished. The kingdom mourned the tragic end of Neka, but it was a mourning mixed with relief. The shadow had lifted. King Obi and Queen Ada ruled with wisdom and kindness once more. They kept their promise to Neoma and Ifyananya. They built them a beautiful large house right in Amumbid and gave them the most fertile farmland in the kingdom. Neoma never had to worry about food again, and she hired workers, becoming a respected and successful farmer. Ifeanyi was treated like a daughter by the royal family and grew up to be a wise and brave young woman. A year later, a new joy came to the palace. Queen Ada gave birth to healthy twin boys. The sound of babies crying was the most beautiful music the palace had ever heard. The whole kingdom celebrated for a week. The river Njaba seemed to sing a sweeter song as it flowed past the village. King Obi, holding his sons, often thought about the twists of fate. He learned that a kind heart is the greatest treasure and that true strength lies in the love of your people. Neoma, Ifeanyi, Ada, and her parents became one big happy family.